The hall was filled with noise. Shouts and laughter echoed against the tall stone walls. Strange lights glowed in the ceiling, casting sharp colors across the crowd. Rows of aliens sat close together, waiting for the next item to be shown. Their voices mixed like a storm. Some spoke in guttural tones, others hissed in high pitches. All were eager to see who would be sold next. At the center of the hall stood a raised platform. Chains rattled as a figure was dragged into the light. It was a girl. Her skin was pale with a faint shimmer, marked by bruises. She wore torn clothes, and her wrists were bound by iron cuffs. She stumbled forward, her knees hitting the hard floor. Gasps rippled through the audience, but most of the aliens only smiled. To them, she was not a person. She was only a prize. The auctioneer, a tall creature with scaled skin, lifted his long arm. His voice boomed across the room. Here she is. Strong enough to work. Beautiful enough to entertain. Who will start the bidding? The girl raised her head. Her eyes glistened with tears, wide and filled with fear. She shook her head slowly as if begging the world to stop. When no one moved, she whispered. Her voice was weak, but it carried through the silence. Brand me yours. Just don't leave me. The words cut through the laughter. Some aliens roared with amusement. Others sneered, whispering cruel jokes to their neighbors. The auctioneer grinned, showing sharp teeth. He tugged the chain around her neck and forced her to stand. You heard her. She begs for an owner. Who will claim her life? Bidding began. Hands rose in the air. Voices shouted numbers. The price grew higher with every second. The girl trembled, her body swaying like a candle in the wind. Her lips moved again, repeating the same plea. Don't leave me. Please don't leave me. The crowd's laughter grew louder. They enjoyed her despair. Some leaned forward, hungry to see her spirit break. Others smirked, already imagining the mark of ownership burned into her skin. The auctioneer lifted his hand, proud of the rising numbers. He shouted them out one by one, his voice like a drumbeat. The girl's knees gave out. She fell to the floor again. No one helped her. She pressed her forehead against the cold stone and closed her eyes. Her heart was broken. She knew she would be taken by someone cruel. She knew her life would be nothing but chains. Then silence came. The bidding stopped. The crowd froze. One man had raised his hand. He was not like the others. He was human. He sat in the far corner of the hall, quiet until now. His clothes were plain, dark from travel. His face carried no smile, no mockery. His eyes were steady, fixed on the girl as if nothing else existed. He did not shout. He did not laugh. He only lifted one finger. The auctioneer blinked in surprise. Murmurs spread across the room. A human? One alien whispered. Why would he want her? Another asked. Is he mad? A third hissed. The human did not answer. He stayed still, his finger raised. His calm presence cut through the noise like a blade. The girl lifted her head, her eyes locking on his. She froze, unable to believe what she saw. In his face there was no cruelty. There was no hunger. Only silence and strength. Her lips parted, and a single tear slid down her cheek. For the first time, she did not beg. She only stared at him, searching for meaning. The auctioneer cleared his throat. His voice shook as he called the final number. Sold, to the human. The hall erupted in chaos. Some shouted in anger. Others laughed at what they thought was madness. The girl's chain was handed to the man. He stepped forward, slow and steady. The crowd pushed against each other to see, waiting to watch what he would do. The human reached her side. She was trembling, her legs too weak to hold her. Without a word, he slipped a dark cloak from his shoulders and wrapped it around her body. Gasps rose from the audience. No one had ever shown such care to one bought at auction. The girl clutched the fabric tight. Her tears came faster now, but they were not only tears of fear. Her lips moved, and she whispered again, soft enough for him alone. Don't leave me. The human said nothing. He only placed his hand gently on her shoulder. His eyes never left hers. Around them, the auction hall roared with confusion. Some mocked. Some whispered threats. Some laughed in disbelief. But for the girl, all the noise faded. There was only him. And in that moment she knew. Someone had heard her. Someone had chosen her. The chains on her wrists were still heavy. The brand still waited. But hope had been lit in her heart. And it began with one raised finger. The auction hall was still in uproar. Some aliens shouted curses. Others laughed as if they had seen the most foolish thing in the galaxy. A human paying for a slave. To them, it was a waste. To them, it was madness. But the human did not hear their voices. His focus was on the girl, and only her. The cloak covered her thin body. She clutched it close, still shaking, but there was warmth now where there had only been cold. She stared at him with wide, uncertain eyes. He was a stranger. Yet in that single act, he had done more for her than anyone ever had. The auctioneer pulled at the chain and handed it over. His scaled hands trembled, unsure how to treat a man who defied the crowd. The human took the chain without a word. He wrapped it once around his arm, not like a leash, but as if to hide it from sight. The aliens jeered. "Look at him," one sneered. "He thinks he is noble." Another spat. "He will not last a night with her." A third laughed. The girl's heart pounded. Her lips moved again, so quiet it was almost a breath. "Don't leave me." The human turned his head slightly. His voice came, deep and steady. "I will not." The words were simple, but they struck her like thunder. Her chest tightened, and her tears returned. For the first time, they were not only tears of fear. He placed his hand on her back, firm yet gentle, and guided her down the steps. The crowd parted. Some moved aside out of curiosity. Others out of fear. No one dared block his path. The hall doors opened. The air outside was sharp and cold. Neon lights flickered above the streets, painting the night in shades of blue and red. The smell of smoke and oil drifted from the city beyond. The girl stumbled, her legs weak from the heavy chains. She fell forward, but before she hit the ground, the human caught her. He lifted her into his arms as though she weighed nothing. She gasped, startled by his strength. She clung to his chest, the cloak wrapping them both. For the first time in years, she felt safe. But danger was not gone. From the shadows, eyes followed them. The alien bidders were not pleased. To them, the human was a thief of their entertainment, a fool who had insulted their pride. Whispered threats rose in the dark alleys. Blades were drawn. Plans were made. The girl heard the murmurs. Her voice shook as she whispered into his chest. "They will come. They will take me back." The human kept walking. His steps were slow, steady, unshaken. "No," he said. "Not while I live." His words made her chest ache. She pressed her forehead against him, as if trying to hide from the world. They reached a quiet street, far from the noise of the hall. Lanterns burned low in the corners. The buildings leaned close together, broken and stained. The human stopped near an old shelter. He set her down gently and sat beside her. Her hands shook as she touched the iron cuffs on her wrists. She tried to speak, but her throat was too tight. Finally, she managed a whisper. "Why?" The human looked at her, his face calm, his eyes unreadable. "Because you asked?" Her breath caught. She had begged so many before. None had listened. None had cared. Yet this man, who had no reason to, had chosen her. She lowered her head, tears dripping into her lap. "You don't know me. I am nothing. I am broken. Why would you waste anything on me?" The human's hand moved, resting lightly on her shoulder. His voice was low, steady, and unshakable. "No one is nothing." Her lips trembled. She lifted her eyes to his, searching for cruelty, for lies. But she found none. She found only a strength she could not understand. The silence between them was heavy but not empty. It was filled with something she had never felt before. Something she feared to name. She pulled the cloak tighter, still trembling, but her heart was different now. It was not only fear that beat inside her chest. It was something else. A spark. From the alley across the street, a shadow moved. A pair of glowing eyes watched them. A whisper slithered into the air. The human has claimed her. This will not stand. The danger was growing. The girl felt it in her bones. But when she looked at the man beside her, she felt a strange certainty. He had raised his finger once, and the world had shifted. Now she wondered what he would do when the world struck back. The night outside the auction hall was alive with sound. Voices carried from distant alleys. Neon signs flickered in broken colors, painting the walls in red, blue, and green. Strange smells filled the air, smoke and metal, oil and fire. The city was restless, and danger moved in its shadows. The human carried the girl through the narrow streets. Her body was light in his arms, but her chains made every step harder. The iron cuffs cut into her wrists and ankles. The marks were raw, but he did not let her fall. He walked as if the weight of her life was nothing compared to his will. She kept her face pressed against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, steady and calm. It gave her strength. Still, her voice trembled when she whispered, "They are following." He did not look back. His eyes stayed forward, sharp and focused. "Yes." Her breath caught. Fear wrapped around her throat. "They will take me again." "No," he said. His voice was quiet but unshaken. "Not while I breathe." The words struck her heart like fire. She closed her eyes, clinging tighter to his cloak. Behind them, the shadows stirred. Groups of aliens left the auction hall, their steps echoing on the stone streets. Some carried blades that glimmered under the neon lights. Others whispered to one another, angry that a human had stolen what they thought belonged to them. The human turned into a darker street. The lamps here were broken, and the air was damp. Water dripped from pipes overhead. Rats scurried across the ground. The girl trembled, but the human's steps never faltered. At last, he set her down against the wall so she could rest. She winced as her ankles touched the ground, the chains clinking. He crouched beside her and pulled something from his belt. It was a small tool, sharp and precise. He pressed it against the iron cuff on her wrist. Sparks hissed in the dark. The girl's eyes widened. She whispered, "You are freeing me?" "Yes." His voice was calm. Her lips parted. No one had ever tried to release her chains before. She had expected him to hold the leash tighter, to guard his purchase. Yet here he was, breaking the links instead. One cuff fell away. The other followed with another spark of light. The chains clattered to the ground, heavy and lifeless. She stared at her freed hands, trembling as she touched her skin. The marks were deep, but they were no longer bound. Tears blurred her sight. She looked at him, unable to speak. He met her eyes. "You walk with me by choice. Not by chain." Her breath broke. For a moment she thought her heart would stop. No one had spoken to her like that. No one had given her the chance to choose. Before she could answer, the sound of footsteps came closer. Dozens of them. Voices carried through the street. "He went this way. Catch the human. Take the girl." Fear returned like a wave. She pressed her back against the wall, trembling. Her voice cracked. "They are here." The human stood. His figure blocked the path between her and the danger. He turned his head slightly, his voice low. "Stay behind me." The girl's breath shook. She clutched the cloak tight and nodded, though her body quivered. Figures appeared at the end of the street. Shadows melted into shapes. Long arms, sharp weapons, glowing eyes. They spread across the path, blocking every escape. The human did not move. He stood tall, steady, silent. The aliens laughed at him. "One human against us all?" One mocked. "Leave the girl, and maybe we will spare you." Another sneered. The human's voice cut through their laughter, calm and cold. "She is not yours." The words made the girl gasp. Her heart pounded as she stared at his back. No one had ever spoken for her. No one had ever claimed her safety with such finality. The alien stepped closer. Blades glimmered. The air grew thick with tension. The girl pressed her hands to her mouth, her eyes wide with terror. She whispered through her tears, "Please don't leave me." The human did not turn. His stance grew firm, and his voice was iron. "I will not!" The night held its breath. The silent walk had ended. Now the fight would begin. The street was finally silent. The attackers had pulled back, though their threats still echoed in the night. The human stood at the edge of the alley, watching the shadows, making sure no more followed. His breathing was steady, but his fists were still tight, ready if danger came again. The girl sat against the wall, wrapped in his cloak. Her freed hands shook as she touched her face. She could not stop the tears. For years she had been nothing but a chained prize, passed from one cruel hand to another. Now, for the first time, someone had fought for her. Someone had stood between her and the world. The human returned to her side. He crouched down, meeting her eyes. "You are safe now," he said. Her voice cracked. "Safe? Nowhere is safe from me." He tilted his head slightly. "Tell me why." She swallowed hard. Her chest ached. For so long, her story had been a burden she carried alone. But his eyes were steady, calm, and unshaken. She felt something inside her begin to break. She whispered, "I was taken when I was a child. My village was small. My people were simple. We lived near the forests of glass. Hunters came one night. They burned everything. They took me while my family screamed. I never saw them again." Her fingers clutched the cloak as if it was the only thing keeping her whole. Her tears fell faster. "They sold me to traders. They told me I had no name anymore. Only a price. I was shown to crowds. Some wanted me for labor. Others for worse. Every time I begged. I begged someone to see me as more than a number. But no one listened." Her voice broke completely. She pressed her face into her hands. "So I said it. I said those words again and again. Brand me yours. Don't leave me. Not because I wanted the mark. Not because I wanted chains. I only wanted someone to stay. Someone to stop walking away." The human listened in silence. He did not move, did not look away. The girl's voice softened, heavy with pain. "But no one ever did. They laughed. They mocked me. They left me in the dark. And every time they left, I thought it would be the end." She lifted her face at last, her eyes red with tears. "Until you." The human's gaze was firm. His voice was quiet, but it carried like steel. "You are not property. You are not a brand. You are alive. That is enough." Her lips trembled. She searched his face for cruelty, for the lie she had learned to expect. But she saw none. Only truth. Only strength. Her heart twisted painfully. For the first time in years, she felt something she could not name. Hope. She lowered her head, whispering, "I don't deserve this." The human placed his hand on her shoulder. His touch was steady, grounding. "You deserve to be free. And you deserve more than that." Her chest tightened. His words filled the silence like fire in the cold. She wanted to believe them. She wanted to cling to them. But the fear had not left. The memory of chains still burned. She shook her head. "They will keep coming. They will not stop. I am cursed. Anyone who keeps me will fall." The human's eyes narrowed, but not with fear. With resolve. "Let them come. They will not take you again." Her breath caught. Her tears blurred everything. She could not stop them now. She leaned forward, her forehead pressing against his chest. Her voice broke into a whisper. "Don't leave me." His arms closed around her. He held her gently, not like an owner, not like a master, but like a protector. His voice rumbled low, steady, unyielding. "I will not!" The girl closed her eyes, clinging to him. The world outside was cruel, but in his arms, she felt a light that had been missing all her life. In that moment, she understood something. He had not bought her to own her. He had bought her to save her. And maybe, just maybe, she could believe in something more. The silence stretched. The night was heavy. But for the first time, her heart dared to beat with hope. The door burst open with a crash. Splinters flew across the floor as shadows rushed in. The hunters filled the room, their eyes glowing in the weak lantern light. Blades gleamed in their hands, sharp and eager for blood. The human stood tall, his figure a wall between them and the girl. His cloak shifted in the draft, but his stance was steady. He did not step back. He did not tremble. His weapon was raised, gripped with quiet strength. The leader of the hunters sneered. He was broad, his tusks curling from his jaw, his voice like a growl. "Move aside, human! That girl belongs to us. She is marked for chains." The human's answer was calm. "She belongs to no one." The room shook with laughter from the hunters. Their voices were filled with mockery. But behind them, the girl pressed against the wall, her hands clutching the cloak around her body. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might tear free. She wanted to scream. She wanted to beg him to run. But her voice was trapped in her throat. The hunters stepped forward. One lunged first, blade flashing. The human moved with sudden speed. His weapon struck, steel meeting steel. Sparks lit the room. With a sharp motion, he turned the blade aside and drove his fist into the attacker's chest. The alien fell hard to the ground, gasping for air. The girl gasped too, her eyes wide. She had never seen such power. Two more hunters rushed in. The human swung his weapon, blocking one strike, twisting his body to evade the other. His movements were sharp, precise, like a storm held in control. He struck again, his blade cutting across an arm, sending another enemy screaming backward. The room filled with chaos. Boots stomped on the floor. Metal clashed. The lantern flickered as if it, too, feared the violence. The girl pressed her hands to her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. Every moment she thought he might fall. But every time, he stood stronger. His eyes were sharp, his breath steady, his voice silent but unbreakable. The leader roared and charged. His massive blade came down like thunder. The human blocked it with both hands, the clash shaking the walls. The girl cried out, her voice finally breaking. "No!" The human pushed back with all his strength. His arms trembled for a moment, but then he surged forward. With one swift strike, he knocked the blade aside. His weapon flashed again, cutting across the leader's tusk. The hunter roared in pain, stumbling back. The girl's tears fell faster. Her heart was torn between fear and awe. He was bleeding now, a cut running along his arm, but he did not falter. He stood like stone, every breath steady, every strike filled with resolve. One by one, the hunters fell back. Their laughter was gone. Their sneers had turned to curses. Blood stained the floor, and groans of pain echoed in the room. The girl rushed forward, unable to stop herself. She reached his side, her hands clutching his cloak. "You are hurt," she whispered through her tears. He glanced at her, his face calm despite the blood on his arm. His voice was low, steady. "It is nothing." Her heart ached at those words. To him, wounds were nothing. To him, protecting her was everything. The leader snarled, still standing, still furious. He raised his broken weapon, ready to strike again. But the human's eyes locked on him. His voice rang like steel. "Leave, or you will not rise again." The leader froze. He saw the truth in those eyes. The truth that no threat, no pain, no number of blades could break this man's will. With a growl, the leader backed away. His hunters followed, dragging their wounded with them. Their voices filled the night with promises of revenge, but their steps were quick, their pride wounded. The doors swung shut behind them. Silence filled the room once more. The girl fell to her knees, her tears unstoppable. She clutched the edge of his cloak, her voice breaking. "You fought for me. You bled for me. Why? Why do this for someone like me? The human crouched, his hand lifting her chin so her eyes met his. His voice was quiet, but every word carried weight. Because no one else did. Because you asked? And because I will never leave you. Her breath shattered. Her tears spilled freely, but they were no longer only tears of fear. They were tears of something new. Something warm. She threw her arms around him, holding him tightly. Her body shook, but her heart burned. For the first time, she was not only alive. She was protected. Chosen. Wanted. The human wrapped his arms around her, steady and strong. His voice rumbled softly. You are safe. And in that broken room, with the blood of hunters still on the ground, she finally believed him. The night stretched long after the hunters fled. The city's noise dulled to distant echoes, but inside the broken shelter, silence reigned. The human sat near the dying lantern, his weapon laid across his knees. His arm was wounded, blood staining his sleeve, yet he sat with the same calm strength as before. The girl knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she pressed a strip of cloth against his wound. Her tears blurred her sight, but she refused to look away. For so long she had believed no one would ever stand for her. Now, before her eyes, a man had shed blood only to keep his promise. You are hurt because of me, she whispered. Her voice shook, heavy with guilt. He glanced at her, his eyes steady, his tone quiet but firm. I am alive because of you. She blinked at him, her lips parting. Because of me? Yes, he said. Because you gave me a reason to stand. Her chest tightened painfully. No one had ever said her existence gave meaning. She lowered her head, tears falling into her hands. I am not worth such words. He reached out and lifted her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. His touch was gentle, yet his voice carried the weight of unshakable truth. You are worth more than chains. More than brands. More than their laughter. You are worth everything. Her breath broke. She searched his face for cruelty, for a hidden lie, but she found none. His gaze was calm, honest, filled with a strength that seemed endless. Her tears came harder. She pressed her forehead against his chest, her voice breaking. All my life I'd begged someone not to leave me. And now you stayed. You stayed when it could have cost you everything. His arms wrapped around her, strong and protective. He lowered his head so his words reached only her. I will never leave you. The promise sank deep into her heart. The words warmed every shattered piece of her soul. She clung to him, not as property, not as a slave, but as someone who had finally been seen. Hours passed before they moved again. When the first pale light of dawn touched the city walls, he led her out of the shelter. The streets were quieter, washed in soft gray. Together they walked, his cloak draped around her shoulders, her steps unchained and free. They found a quiet hill beyond the edge of the city. The sky stretched wide above them, filled with fading stars. The girl looked up, her breath caught at the beauty. For years she had only seen skies through bars, skies hidden by smoke. Now she stood under them with nothing between. Tears filled her eyes again. She turned to him, her voice trembling. I was shown to crowds as an object. A thing to be bought, a thing to be used. They would have burned their mark into my skin to claim me. I thought that was all I would ever be. He faced her, his eyes locked on hers. You are not a brand. You are not a chain. You are free. Her heart ached. She stepped closer, her hands shaking as she reached for his. Her voice cracked. Then let me choose. Let me stay with you. Not as your property, but as the one you saved. The one you refused to leave. His fingers closed around hers. His voice was low, steady, but filled with emotion. Then stay. Walk with me, not as mine, but as equal. I will carry your past if you let me, and I will protect your future. Her tears spilled. Her lips trembled. She had no words strong enough to answer. So she threw her arms around him, holding him as if the world itself might tear her away. The dawn light grew brighter, painting them in gold. For the first time in years, she smiled through her tears. She had begged for someone to claim her so she would not be alone. But what she found was far greater. She was not branded. She was not owned. She was chosen. And under the endless alien sky, the broken girl and the human who raised his finger at the auction stood together, bound not by chains, not by brands, but by something stronger. A bond that could never be sold. A bond that would never break.